Welcome to Paddle Forward, a podcast where we navigate the currents of life, embracing motherhood, mindfulness, and the pursuit of our dreams. I'm your host, Anna Connie Walters, and I'm thrilled to embark on this journey with you. Each week, we'll dive into insightful conversations, share inspiring stories, and explore practical strategies to help you unleash your creativity, find happiness within yourself, and navigate the beautiful but sometimes challenging waters of life. Whether you're a new mother seeking balance, a dreamer in pursuit of your passions, or simply someone looking to live a more mindful and fulfilling life, this podcast is for you. Together, we'll paddle forward, embracing the waves of change, and discover the extraordinary possibilities that lie ahead. So grab your metaphorical paddle, find your balance, and let's dive into today's episode of Paddle Forward. So today we have a special topic to discuss: supporting your partner's mental health during deployment. So I just recently wrote a blog about this, which is what inspired this podcast. And deployment can be a very challenging time, both for the deployed service member and their partners. And I think it's crucial to address the importance of supporting their mental health throughout their journey. And today we're going to explore just more effective ways to provide that support while also maintaining a healthy and happy relationship. I think deployment brings a unique set of circumstances that ultimately impact the mental well-being of our loved ones, and I think it's essential to grasp the challenges that they face, from not just the emotional toll, um, but the actual separation anxiety. And I think by understanding these factors, we ourselves can better support our partners. I myself am a military spouse, but before I was a military spouse, I was in the military myself. That's actually where my husband and I first met. We were both in the military, different branches, and it happened to be in 2001, after September 11th. So I myself can I understand the mental shift that happens during some kind of a mental, military um, exercise or deployment. Both my brothers have served in the military, both of them deployed, and it's just it's a hard situation to know how to best support them while they're out doing just a variety of things, because there's different levels of deployment, in my opinion, especially in today's military. And I think it doesn't really matter because it's still deployment. They're away from their families, from their loved ones, and it does cause change that we need to be aware of. I think communication becomes the lifeline during the deployment. And so making sure that you're keeping regular and open communication, I think helps bridge that the distance and foster emotional connection. Now, whether you choose to do this through letters or emails, if it's something that you guys can actually do where they're able to make phone calls, video chats, or even communicate on social media, staying connected with your partners is super important. And remembering to effectively listen is actually just as important as expressing your own thoughts and feelings. So a lot of the times we might get carried away. I think it's this feeling that we may not know what to say. So we start talking about our problems, our days, how we're feeling, as opposed to asking them how they're doing, letting them express how they're feeling. Um, there's obviously this element that they can't necessarily talk about certain things, especially if the type of deployment that they're on is very classified. A lot of the times when my husband was deployed, I didn't really even know where he was. I just knew that, well, he wasn't home. And there were certain things that I knew I wasn't either able to ask or really should ask, I guess is the better question. Um, because you don't really want to put them in a situation and add even more stress by asking them to disclose information that you really know you're not supposed to know or to ask. And I think as partners, we don't have to go through this journey alone ourselves. It's essential to build a strong relationship with other spouses or people who have gone through this, or have a strong understanding of what it's like to have um, a partner deploy, and building that strong support system around us. So whether you reach out to your family, your friends, again, strongly recommend other military spouses or significant others who really understand the unique challenges that you're facing. And then through their support and shared experience, then you become a better communicator and you're able to better actively listen to your partner when you're having these discussions. For me, I was pretty old school. I wrote letters, and I wrote maybe not every day, but I wrote 3 to 4 times a day. It's something about the feeling of paper and pen and just being able to write how I would talk. So when they would read it, he would feel like I was talking to him. And that's just naturally how I write letters. So it really helped me and him. And he looked forward to the letters, which was really nice. Yes, they took a little bit longer to get to him, but I did find that for us in the beginning, technology wasn't as vast and available as it is now. So we didn't really have the options of some of the other means of communication that some people have now. And so I think the letters really just helped. He actually kept all of them and he has them in a box somewhere. I don't know if he'll ever go back and read them, but um, it just was a nice feeling from my perspective because then I kind of felt like I was being listened to. Um, and for him, it was just, being able to take some time away from whatever he was doing when he was deployed and just have kind of like a mental break of just, spacing out, reading the letter and feeling like, he was having a conversation with me. We had sporadic calls, but there's such sometimes poor quality. Um, they're sometimes really rushed. And so for me, it was just better to do the letters. And so it just depends. When he would try to video chat, but time difference was always a factor. And like I said, they tend to be very rushed conversations, in my opinion. And although they're nice, I think having either emails or letters, something written that they could read through, is more of even a mindful practice of them just kind of relaxing their mind enough to just sit down and read what you have to write. And then I think self care is super important. And, while you're supporting your partner during deployment, self-care is crucial for both of you. And by taking care of ourselves, then obviously we become better equipped to provide support. So making sure that you're engaging in activities that bring you joy, reducing stress, things like exercise, maybe starting a hobby, or you had a hobby that you maybe can go back to. Journaling is always a really great, um, productive hobby, or just activity to do. Some people, if you need to, seek help elsewhere, like therapy, if you really need it. And then remembering that, it's okay to prioritize your own mental health too. Self-care from their perspective usually comes in self-care packages that you can send to your service member. Um, One of our deployments that we went through, I actually took part in what was called a deployment ferry. And so essentially, what happens was the DRC would help um, gather everyone's information, and the senior spouses who were, handling the event or the program, um, reached out to everybody, gave everybody the opportunity to sign up. And then the ones who chose to be part of the deployment ferry, you were asked to fill out like a questionnaire, basic information, your name, your address. That was only going to be disclosed to your person who you would be matched up with. And then basic things about yourself, what you liked, foods that you liked, snacks that you liked, hobbies that you were into. And then this information was shared with another spouse that you would be paired with. Um, and then vice versa. So the person that would have your information, you would get their information. And so on every month, by a certain time, I don't remember specifically what time of the month it was. I'm pretty sure it was like in the beginning of the month, like, I don't know, something like the 10th, by the 10th of each month. And this was a 6-month deployment. So for 6 months, you would create a basket or a care package. And if you lived on base, you could technically drive it to the person's house. And now the key was to try to stay anonymous. And so you weren't really encouraged to disclose who you were. You weren't supposed to really leave any clues to who you were. And so when you were dropping the deployment ferry gift for that month, you had to be really sneaky. If you knew the person, then it was probably easier for you, or if you lived on base, to kind of try to time it. If you try to do it off base, that was a little bit more stressful, because then people would kind of look at you like you were breaking in. And I have some super fabulous like stories of trying to find my person's house, because we lived both off base and on the same part of the island. And um, it was just hysterical, because then they were home. And yeah, I just remember recording myself just hysterically laughing. It was like night, and I was like, I think there's like people watching me, like the neighborhood watch. They're about to like, attack my car. I gotta go. But it was actually so awesome. And the gifts that I got through those deployment ferries were probably some of like the best gifts that I've gotten. They were just so thoughtful. And at the very end, the month before the you know our spouses came home. We had kind of a get together, and at that party, you were able to reveal who you were to your deployment fairy by giving them their last deployment fairy gift. And it was so heartwarming to see all the connections that were built, you know, in some cases through total strangers. And then I think the most heart, like just the most touching thing is that my deployment fairy gave me a card with my final gift, and it was just expressing how thankful they were for the gifts. That for the first like 4 months, the deployment fairy gift was like their highlight of the month. They looked forward to it, and it, really brightened up their month, and that they had been really struggling, and that they just wanted to let me know how much it meant to them. And so it was just um, so amazing that when they deployed again, I jumped on the opportunity to do it. And so, if there's something within your unit that's very similar, or maybe you take this idea to your senior spouses who are in charge of organizing these types of events, I think bringing this to the table is something that you can, definitely start if it's not something that's part of your unit and you guys are a deployable unit and are deploying actively. So, very, very strongly recommended. It was the most amazing experience. Definitely made the 6-month deployments a lot easier. My husband, when we were stationed in Hawaii for the first 3 years, was on rapid deployment. So I was basically by myself most of the time we were in Hawaii. He was maybe home mm, 18 months. That was spread out over the course of 3 years. So he was away a lot, and like I said, not all of them were real deployments. A lot of them were training deployments, but nonetheless, they were still time away from me. Um, and a lot of the times, we weren't able to communicate normally. So just take those into consideration and treat them, just as importantly as one of the longer stints. Because for me, I had a hard time in the beginning. Um, I, had really bad separation anxiety from like, childhood trauma that was just really hard for me to get through. But making sure that, I took care of myself. I got into paddleboarding during our rapid deployments when we were in Hawaii. That's actually what drove me into the sport. And it really was a lifesaver having something that I could do after work, especially because I knew I wasn't going to be able to come home to anything. We didn't have any kids, we didn't have pets. It was just really me. I had amazing neighbors, and that really helped. And so, if you can really establish um, you know, um, those things, community, friends, support systems, um, if you like your job, maybe really focusing on that. If you wanted to start a new project, maybe go back to school. Those are all great things to maybe refocus the energy that you would have spent, in kind of sadness. And then getting back to, supporting our partners, sometimes despite our efforts, we notice a significant signs of mental health concerns in our partners when they're deployed. And in those types of cases, it's important to encourage them to seek professional help. I mean, they have a huge variety of support, but they're not going to get the benefits of those um, resources if they don't ask for help themselves. And they have the military family support programs, they have mental health services that are available to them. They have their senior staff NCOs that they can always go to reach out to if there's, an open door and good rapport there. There's always the chaplain, which is a great resource for you to refer them back to. And really, I mean, at the end of the day, supporting our partner's mental health during deployment is really just a journey of love and empathy and trying to understand what they're going through and, how um, they're experiencing it, because it's not a one size fits all cookie cutter kind of situation. Each deployment is super different. The environment's different. What they're doing is different. It could be, very combat hostile, or it could be a very, work heavy, maybe not as hostile, but they're there, because they're trying to prevent something like that. And it's very serious work. It's rough sometimes because they are out in the middle of nowhere. There's no one else other than, who they deploy with. They could be in the jungle. They could be literally sleeping on like rocks on the floor. They're eating not great things. If you've never tried an MRE, experimenting with those types of things while they're home between deployments, I think helps build that relationship, because it gives you also a better understanding on their insight. Like, to have them take you someplace where hiking and experience what it's like, in their equipment, in their sleeping bags, like, okay, set up like you're, a sleep, like how you would be sleeping in deployment. And then sleep there and then talk about how it felt for you. And it's sometimes sharing how you experience that moment will actually encourage them to tell you how they actually felt during that time, when they were deployed, when they were sleeping, what did it feel like to them? And sometimes all you got to do is get them started. And once you do, it kind of is like, a flower blossoming. They just start to kind of let go of some of the stuff that they might be holding on to. Um, you know, Try an MRE if they can bring one home, and or buy one. You can actually buy them on Amazon now, and just kind of be like, okay, what was the most interesting or the worst flavor or the best flavor of MRE? And then, buy one, try it out, and then talk about it. That's a great, way to build that communication, to build those strong relationship bonds and roots, so that when you guys deploy, you already have that open communication. You already know kind of what to talk about, or you have something to talk about in terms of falling back on, like, remember that time when I tried that MRE, and and then you guys laugh about it, and it gives them something to just reminisce on that's not where they are, and takes them away from where they are, what they're doing. And so to basically end this, to supporting our partner's mental health during deployment, is really about incorporating that effective communication, building a good support system, practicing that self-care, and then seeking professional help when we need it, both on both sides, not just theirs, but ours too. And I think by making sure you really touch on all those pillars, you can completely navigate the challenges together. Um, and so I do want to thank you for joining me today on Paddle Forward, Navigating Life's Currents. podcast. And, remember that you're not alone in this journey. I am a military spouse. I'm actively a military spouse now. And a lot of things are happening in the world, and it's scary. There's a lot of military spouses out there who are actively supporting their spouses, today, now. Maybe as you're listening to this podcast, you're supporting your spouse or your partner as they're deployed. And I say partner because maybe 2 years out of the 3 that we were in rapid deployment in Hawaii, we weren't married. And so it was a lot harder, I think, because I was outside of that military community support. And so for the first 2 years, those deployments really, really were hard. But that's where I found paddling. That's where I really reached out to our neighbors. I really, put myself into work. I actually went back to school, and all those things really stemmed from, I think, the lack of support that I was getting because I wasn't married and I didn't have access to anything on base. And so just take advantage of those things, because there are spouses out there that don't have a lot of the resources that you might be privy to. And if you know a spouse who isn't married, but you have some type of a connection, reach out to them, be their support system, be one of those pillars for them, maybe vouch them on base and bring them to a spouse event if that's possible. And remember that, that you can be a source um, of inspiration, of support, and helping someone along their journey as well. So if you found this blog, if you read my blog, you can go to www.fatmermaidsclub.com. That's PHAT, not FAT. And you'll see it in my blog. It's one of the more recent ones that I've posted as of the recording from this podcast. And, please share either the podcast, the blog, or both if you found it helpful with others who may benefit from the value of the information or the just sharing and the ideas. As always, please feel free to leave your thoughts and questions in the comments. Or, reach out to me by email. You can always find how to get in contact with me through my website. And let's just paddle forward and support ourselves and our partners' mental health during their deployments. And so until next time, stay strong, stay supportive, stay beautiful, stay fabulous, and keep paddling forward. This is Anna Connie Walters signing off for Paddle Forward Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe to Paddle Forward on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. And if you'd like to support the show, we'd truly appreciate it if you could leave a positive review and share it with your friends and loved ones. I'd love to hear from you too. Connect with me on social media at Fat Mermaids, PHAT Mermaids, MERMAIDS, on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Share your thoughts, questions, and suggestions for future episodes. Your feedback is invaluable to me as we navigate this journey together. Remember, every paddle stroke brings us closer to our dreams, so keep paddling forward, embracing the changes, and embracing the beauty of the journey. Until next time, stay tuned, stay mindful, and keep paddling forward.